y'all, Violet here, second generation homeschooling mom of 3. I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a toddler. Today I wanted to share with you a small mid-year haul from Rainbow Resource. So let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to start with the kind of essential things that I needed to purchase. Singapore Math, this is the primary 2022 edition. It comes in 2 semesters. So you have to buy the A books and the B books. And so what I usually do is I buy the A books in the summer and then the B books before we start the second half of our school year, or when my kids need them, if they need them earlier than that. So I bought the grade 1B book, and I already have the teacher's manual for this, so I did not have to purchase it again because my daughter went through this program. And then for my daughter, I needed the 4B book and then the 4B teacher's manual. I will say my daughter is becoming more independent, a lot more independent with her math. And so I don't use the teacher's manual every day, but I still buy it every time because it's helpful when I do use it. And it also comes with a bunch of digital files like extension and reteach problems, and the extension problems especially we use every day. So those are really valuable. And as far as I know, there isn't a way yet to purchase those without purchasing the teacher's manual. And then the other thing that we need to buy that I kind of buy per semester is art supplies. We use Artistic Pursuits. And for the newest edition of Artistic Pursuits, the K-3 volumes, you do 2 volumes in a year. So I buy whatever supplies we need for our first volume. At the same time, I buy the math, essentially. So in the summer and then in the winter. So for the second half of the year, for the volume 6 of Artistic Pursuits, we had all the supplies except these opaque watercolor paints and then this plaster cloth. So I purchased both of those things. I'll just show you what these, we already opened these and started to use them, but I'll just show you what this looks like. It has white for mixing, there's a mixing tray up top, and then it has all the different colors. And it does not come with a paintbrush, but they have paintbrushes that they recommend. But we already had a bunch of nice watercolor paintbrushes, so I didn't buy any of those. Yeah, so that was kind of all of my essentials. And then I usually look and see if there's anything on my wish list that's I want to add on, since between the math and the art supplies, I have enough for free shipping anyway. And then the next 2 things that I got from Rainbow Resource were actually gifts for my husband for Christmas. So I got this Ticket to Ride India and Switzerland. This is an expansion for Ticket to Ride, so you do need one of the base games, either Ticket to Ride or Ticket to Ride Europe, in order to play this. This is a double-sided board, and then whatever special pieces you need to play. And so my husband has been wanting this edition for a while because it's supposed to be good for 2 players or like smaller numbers of players. We usually don't play as a whole family. That's just kind of hard right now with a toddler in the mix. So usually smaller groups of people. So we haven't opened this yet, but hopefully it's fun. We like a lot of the other Ticket to Ride games. We have 1 or 2 other expansions. And then I also got my husband these constellation cards. He's been wanting something like this for a while. And this isn't all 80 constellations. There's 54 cards. But each card has the line drawing of the constellation. It has holes punched in it for the major stars. And then it has whatever the constellation shape is on the back. And then there's a guide to the constellations as well. So these are a little bit kind of on the flimsier side. I wouldn't give these to my kids. Probably. These are definitely going to be something that the grown-ups will use, but my husband was really excited about that. And then the last thing that I have to show you are these 2 trivia games. Now, I was wanting to buy some trivia games for my kids because we have an activity that we do at every meal, or my kids fight. So like at breakfast, we watch an educational TV show. I'm not a morning person. I'm not really awake for breakfast, so it works really well for us to just sit and watch 20 minutes of something educational. And then we've also been watching BBC's News Round as well in the morning. And then at lunch, we do read alouds or listen to an audiobook, something like that. But we didn't have anything specific for dinner. So by that time, the whole family is tired. We're usually all together for dinner unless somebody's traveling or something. And so we are all telling each other about how our days went and that kind of thing. My husband is home and he's talking about work, and my kids are telling him what we did today and all of that. So dinner can be kind of chaotic, but we also have lulls where everybody's eating or whatever. And then my kids would kind of start to bicker a little bit. So I was looking for an activity that we could do during dinner that we could kind of self-pace and we could dip in and out of as needed. And so my kids have gotten really into trivia lately, and I thought, oh, maybe we could do Trivial Pursuit cards. So we had a really old edition of Trivial Pursuit. So I pulled the cards out of that, and that was just a disaster. Nobody knew any of the answers to any of them, and it was just a very unpleasant experience because there was no hope any of this. Even my husband and I were having a hard time with some of these a lot of these questions because they were just so old. So I went to the thrift store and looked at a much newer edition of Trivial Pursuit. It was like the Trivial Pursuit Family Edition or something from, I think, 2017, 2018. It was a lot more current. And again, those questions, when I was looking at them in the thrift store, were going to be too hard for my kids, especially. More of them were things that my husband and I would know, but a lot of them were still going to be, I think, frustrating for my kids. So I ended up not purchasing that, and I was researching other trivia games that we could buy instead, and I found these Professor Noggin's games. So I had my kids each choose one topic. So my son chose life in the ocean, and my daughter chose out of space. And I ordered them from Rainbow Resource. And these games are why this video is coming out now instead of back in January when I got the rest of these things. These Professor Noggin's games, a lot of them are sold out everywhere. So when I originally placed my Rainbow Resource order, they were on back order. And they were supposed to come mid-January or something like that. And they just kept pushing the date back further and further and further. And finally, Rainbow Resource has a policy where if you have something on back order, if it's been more than 60 days, they just automatically cancel your order and refund your money so that they're not holding your money forever. So that happened to me. My money got refunded, which is fine. Like, I'm happy that they don't hold it forever because I would completely forget that I had something ordered if it went on too long. And they send you email updates as well. But anyway, I had told my kids that we were going to get these trivia games and they'd chosen the topics, and so they were really excited about it, and they kept asking me when they were going to come. And then I was like, oh no, they're canceled. I have to find somewhere else to buy them. And they were sold out everywhere I looked. And so I finally found a copy of each on eBay that were complete, had all the cards, and weren't any more expensive than they would have been to purchase new. Anyway, whole long explanation to say that these actually came from eBay instead of Rainbow Resource, but I did try to order them from Rainbow Resource. I'm just going to show you these really quickly. These are at a perfect level for my kids. So each card has, these are the newer editions. The older editions have like sketches, I think, on the front or some sort of art. These all have pictures. And then on the back, there are 6 questions. There's easier ones for the student and harder ones for the scholar. So we've been going through these, and these are fun. I don't know necessarily that I would call them the best value, especially compared to something like Trivial Pursuit, where for $20, you can buy the new game with the game board and all the pieces and so many trivia questions. These are on Rainbow Resource. They're about $10 for this box of 30 cards with 6 questions on it each. But as we've been going through them, my kids are not going to want to do these cards over and over and over again because they remember the answers from last time. And anytime I've repeated a question to kind of test, they've been like, oh, we answered that question before, Mama. It was this. Of course, we know that already. So I do really like these. I don't know that I would necessarily run out and buy a ton of different topics just because the amount of time that we're going to spend using them versus the cost. I just don't know if for us it makes sense to have a bunch of them. So what I am going to do for right now is we'll continue to use these 2 until my kids are bored of them. And then what I might do is have them each pick a new set to buy kind of as like a beginning of the school year present or something like that. I don't know. I do really like them, but I also do feel like they're kind of probably one of the more expensive ways to get trivia into your day. Oh, also these are supposed to be a game where you roll this die and then answer whatever number, and whoever has the most cards wins. We don't play it like that because it sounds kind of boring to me. We just read them as trivia questions at dinner, and that works wonderfully for us. So yeah, we've been enjoying these Professor Noggin games, and I do have my eye on a couple of other topics, but like I said, we'll see. We'll see how long we end up using these before we get bored of these 2 topics, and then kind of we'll have to decide if buying additional ones is worth it for us within our budget. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful. I will link everything on Rainbow Resource in the description box below. And thank you for watching.